Good morning, Michelle.
Hi, Josh.
How's it going today?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm all right. It is September 13th,
Yes, it is mid-September already.
2022. It
Jeez.
was my brother's birthday yesterday.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Did you do anything special for him?
With just text message.
Yeah.
I wish we'd do a phone call. We're planning our Adventures in Faith coming up, and one of the key themes is making authentic connections. So when you have that choice, when you're going to text somebody a love on your birthday, should you pause and say, maybe I should reach out and do a phone call, or maybe I should drive over and do that visit? But we had some good communications there.
Good.
And just overall, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I think, as you know, I had another loss in our family. A very young member of our family passed away, and that sort of last few weeks been kind of overarching for us emotionally and physically. So last night I conducted his memorial service, which as a minister can be really difficult. And some of the losses I've experienced recently, I've abdicated that role and said, I just want to be the grieving friend or aunt or daughter or sister or whatever. And last night I went ahead and did the service, and it was interesting and difficult to be there. Luckily, I was able to be authentic and tell everybody there, I love this kid, and I can't promise you that I'm not going to break down crying in the middle of whatever it is I'm doing or saying. And they were very loving, and it was a really powerful community experience. And it was hard too, emotionally.
Yeah, I'm so very sorry for you and your family and that loss. And it's an interesting thing being a minister because we can sometimes delay our own grief process.
Yes.
But, when someone we love loses someone, or we lose someone we love, sometimes that question is, I'm helpless. There's nothing that I can do. And sometimes as ministers, there is a little something we can do. We can help with that service. We, have some experience with grief and can support. And so it's wonderful to be able to do something to help. And it's hard when we sometimes want to be the grieving person who's just taking it all in and being present to what is.
Yeah, my experience was that I was able to be the professional, get through the service, had a few moments where I got a little teary reading, especially things from people. And as soon as the service was over, I just cried and cried and cried and cried. And that's part of what I talked about, is that with grief, no matter how lofty your spiritual ideals are, there's still this human heart that needs to grieve. And it's both and, it's not either or.
Yeah, I was doing the memorial for Alan Feldman, who's like a dad to me, who you knew very well as well in California.
That was probably hard.
It was super hard. And I remember having it all together, and then my own dad showed up and walked into the room, and I remember I just crumbled. I just crumbled because Alan was so that to me.
Yes.
And I remember getting through that service, but it was a reminder of that, sense of sacred duty and being there and remembering the truth, and the kid within us whenever we lose, especially a parental figure, that is just sad.
Yep.
Sad.
Exactly. Exactly. And you have a big birthday of someone coming up in your life here in the next few
Nancy
weeks.
June turns 4 years old on September 23rd. You are
so
coming
exciting.
to her birthday dinner. She has a favorite Mexican restaurant where she knows everyone who works there, and they all know her.
I'm sure of that.
So it's going to be a big birthday dinner, and we're looking to celebrate that. And we were just talking to April about how fast the time goes with COVID and having the baby, and I think as well. I've shared this with you before too. I always remember just before NJ was born, April turning to me and she said, "Josh, the day will come where you will not remember a time where Nancy didn't exist."
Right.
And I said, that is the weirdest thing I've ever heard, and yet there's a spiritual truth to that. It's like there's this eternality where she's such a part of my soul that I can't really imagine a time where we were disconnected, although that connection bloomed and blossomed over these 4 years. So we're looking forward to celebrating her too.
Congratulations to you and April and Gavin, and to sweet little Nancy June. What a wonderful milestone.
We're looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And so just looking at what's going on in the world today, the thing that draws my attention is this war in Ukraine. Stepping back, we have so much going on domestically, but when we're looking at this situation, we have Russia invading this country, Ukraine, and it's the biggest conflict in Europe that we've seen for so long, and we know the consequences of what takes place there could really shape geopolitics for decades, and there's a lot of us I know that are watching that we're rooting for the Ukrainians because we don't like the idea of people invading another person's people's country, and yet we're looking at Putin with negative eyes. We tend to not like this guy. We tend to want him to get out of there and to face consequences for his actions, and it goes along spiritually. I so enjoyed your message this past Sunday, this great series on peace. How do we hold a peaceful consciousness and want to hold someone like that accountable?
Yep, exactly. Well, and I think we just talked about both and you just highlighted it, both and. We teach love and logic here at Mile High Church, which is a really wonderful system for us to deal with. Dr. Barry teaches it mostly helping people to raise their children with love and logic. But I also think that love and logic has its place in our relationships with each other, that I can find this place within me where I deeply love and can see you as a being of the divine at the core of your center, and yet have consequences to negative behavior. And so I tend to think personally that we are not going to solve this issue by continuing to send spiritual daggers to Putin, and theorized a couple weeks ago in a talk about what would it be like if we all just prayed on the guy and just bombarded him, but with light and love and an affirmation for him to see his spiritual nature. Would that make a difference? I don't know if it would, but I'm pretty sure that we're not going to solve this problem by hating him, by sending him nasty grams in our minds and our hearts. But at the same time, there needs to be some consequences to the choices that he's making that could happen in, I think, some of the world governments and the ways that the country is, that Russia's treated, and some of the challenges that he's going to face and has been facing as a leader, things that are taken away, privileges. And yet the sad part for me about all that is that the current consequences that we've chosen often are hurting the Russian people, who are not all implicit in these choices that their leader's making. So it's a big challenge. How do you see it, Josh?
Yeah, I think it's very challenging too, and I think and I love that you, in a sense, related to personal life too. When we're spiritual people, we want to love everybody, but sometimes there are people who can take advantage of you. Right. Oh, I can mistreat you because you're going to love me anyway. And it can say, I'm going to love you anyways, but there's consequences within the realm of this relationship and boundaries, and I think that happens on the world stage too. Putin's a big boy. He knows exactly what he's doing, and he knows some of the consequences of the games that he's playing. And so sometimes if he experiences those consequences, although I'm sending him, prayers and know he's capable of changing.
Yes.
I don't think I'm someone who's going to be sad, and this is hard to say as a spiritual person, if he meets the ultimate consequence because of those actions. And I remember both Saddam Hussein and Gaddafi there in Libya, when they met really bad fates. And there was that aspect, the part of you that wants every human being to have dignity that's hurt and harmed, but there's this other part that says objectively this is the consequences of their actions within their people. And what I don't see in that moment is all the people that they cause suffering for.
Right.
And so it's very hard and it's tricky. And I do think it takes some prayer work, some silent time when we're watching these things in the world and wanting one side to prevail over another, even though we believe in unity. And yet at the same time to be conscious that everyone's capable. And, I share that with people who are working with people struggling in addiction in their lives or abuse or whatever it may be, is, my job is to not have any illusions about what's going on. But if I look at anyone in the world and say they can never change,
right,
they're not capable, then I think I'm in a bad place in consciousness.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think that part of the reason that I also want to land in the realm of prayerful light sent that way to Putin and all of his ilk, and at the same time I'm totally willing for there to be consequences, is that I recently watched this documentary on Osama bin Laden before he was captured and killed. So our country gets rid of Osama bin Laden. Well, guess what? There were 4 or 5 of him that he'd been training in the background who are now active and stepping into his shoes even more fervently because we killed him and they're angry about it. So while I totally hear you, and I felt that with world leaders over my lifetime, like, well, I would be fine if they just kind of went on to the next plane of existence. But I'm noticing this pattern where new ones emerge. How do we stop that? Mm-hmm. How do we stop that pattern, that overarching pattern in humanity? And it's, it's systematic. It's everything from bullies in schools to people who think they have a right to go into a public place and just shoot people, to people who are suffering and they're so violent out of their suffering. It's like, it just builds up and builds up. It's a systemic issue on our planet.
Totally. I think that's such a great point. And, Socrates is said to have said something to the degree of, meager people talk about people. Slightly more advanced people talk about events, and then really smart people or philosophers talk about ideas. And when we're looking at the Putins and the Bin Ladens, we have to realize that ultimately the thing we're fighting against is an ideology that springs these people forth and can cause them to misuse their power or think it's okay to take the lives of other people. And so I do think that's more of an advanced way of thinking about it, is not how can we just handle the situation, but what are these ideas that are perpetuating things like the misogyny that mistreats women in our world, or that keeps people hungry, or that makes divisions where they're not needed out in the world, that leads to some of the immense suffering that we see out there. And I think as spiritual leaders, all of us, everyone listening here today, the trick is to not turn your head away, to stay conscious even in the tough questions. It is. And to be present in there, both with a breaking heart, but also with a prayerful heart of wholeness, knowing that we can respond to any difficulty and get through those things. And I sound hypocritical because I'm here in an office with you having a conversation, not in Ukraine, but I think holding that consciousness is important.
Yeah, if we who know the light don't bring the light, it will never change. If we just shy away from it and just don't look at it. But if we bring the light to that situation and do our best to continually see the potential solutions and send the light and the love that way, we can at least feel better about our participation on this planet.
Write that down, because we're planning our Adventures in Faith series, and our theme this year is leading with light. And so that was a great quote that you can put in your talk there for that. And it does lead just in terms of Mile High Church. Again, it's September 13th. And what's going on here? What are you looking forward to?
Well, as you know, I have lots of passion about our educational programs here, especially our adult education spiritual classes. And part of that passion is that I've watched in my number of years of being a minister, people come into classes and really experience transformation in their outlook about themselves and their lives, as well as build community. And I think that's what we're so hungry for, that if we're coming to church or we're even tuning into something like this, we're interested in making meaningful transformation in specific areas of our life or contributing to the world in a new way. And I feel like one of the most effective ways to do that is to be in a spiritual class and to study. So we're getting ready next week to launch some great classes. I'm excited about the Beyond Limits class you're going to be teaching. That's the first class that people can enroll in and learn all about our teaching. And even if you're local, we have some in-person classes. And if you are non-local and you want to be online, we've got a number of online classes. So it's exciting.
I think it is really exciting. And some people go, why take a spiritual class? But why not take a class on the things that are most important to you in your life? Your introspection, your relationships, your prosperity consciousness, and asking ourselves those big questions, and then make a big difference whatever class someone signs up for.
They do make a difference. Yes. And what are you looking forward to?
I'm really looking forward to Dr. Roger being back with us the next couple of Sundays. Yes. So it's always good. And I know you and I always get some inspiration getting to watch him do his work.
Yes.
And then Adventures in Faith kicks off in October. And that's always kind of a special time. We create with a committee a special theme, and we create small group material. And so people can go online, I think, as soon as this weekend, and they can become a part of an online group or an on-campus group here that meets with about 10 people or so for 5 weeks or so, and gets into this concept of what you were just talking about, this this idea of leading with light is all about identifying what's best in ourselves and making sure we're leading with that in our lives, as opposed to kind of an unconscious way of being, or more of a reactive with our own story about things, way of living, which just isn't working for so many of us anymore. So I'm really looking forward to that. And it's always, this time of year is, every month at Mile High is great, but as you know, this is a really, a pickup time of year as we move into, all of the holiday seasons and things like that. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
It is. It's going to be a great fall and winter here at Mile High Church.
All right. Well, wherever you're listening, I hope you're taking great care of yourself. Great to talk with you, Michelle. Thanks to Bobby Dart for recording us today.
Yes. Thank you, Josh. And thanks, Bobby.